Hello, everyone, and welcome to Health and Happiness at Work. This podcast is for busy working adults trying to figure out how to better take care of themselves and others. My name is Katie, and I will be your host. We are here today because adulting is hard and because busy working adults spend more time at work than anywhere else. We're going to have real conversations about real life and, most importantly, swing into action on the biggest opportunities. We're going to talk about ways to layer health, fitness, and wellness directly into your workday so that you feel fantastic. I cannot wait to dive deeper into each of these topics related to health and happiness. You are not alone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 7, where we are diving into the topics of technology and well-being. So you may be wondering, can these two things coexist? I believe they can. I believe they have to because of the state we are in with virtual everything continuing on. You know, I anticipate we are going to land somewhere soon where we are returning to work and returning to in-person meetings, and that is the case right now. We're seeing some of that transition. That said, virtual is here to stay. And in my informal assessment of colleagues and clients, we are all very tired of consuming technology, and it's this beautiful option that we now have, and everyone is more comfortable and proficient, I think, in using it. But with that comes a very different workday. So today we're going to talk about some ways to, again, establish a healthy relationship with technology while still supporting your health and well-being all day long. We have a few different topics we'll cover today. We're going to talk a little bit about distraction and how technology can be a distraction, especially when you're trying to stay in that state of flow. And we'll look at what daily technology consumption sometimes looks like on an average day. From there, we'll uncover ways to engage in current technology while still supporting what we call the 4 domains of wellness, so mind, body, spirit, and environment. And then finally, and perhaps most importantly, I always want to shift to tactics or strategies or specific takeaways so that, again, and we're not just here talking and learning, but we're applying. I think that's where the magic happens, when we hear somebody speak or we attend something and we're very clear on what those next steps can look like. So as we talk about technology and well-being, I lead with a pretty big question. Are we all technology addicts? Are we addicted to our phones and all the things? Being labeled an internet addict is pretty easy by definition. So to be considered an internet addict, one must log 38 hours a week online, and that's just over 5 hours a day. And this could be on computers, tablets, or smartphones. So by this definition, the question becomes, are we all addicts by partway through the week? You know, we are just consuming massive amounts of technology, not only in our workday, but in our leisure time. I picked up a book called The Distraction Addiction. I'd like to encourage everyone to check it out. The Distraction Addiction is written by Alex Sujung Kim Pang, and it has the best subtitle. The subtitle says, "Getting the information you need and the communication you want without enraging your family, annoying your colleagues, and destroying your soul." And this book really does explore our culture and how we engage, or as the author says, entangle ourselves with technology. It's really interesting. And so here are some stats from the book. And this is, again, a generalization. You might hear these stats and agree or disagree, or maybe it's 10 times this, who knows? So on average, we send and receive about 110 messages a day. We check our phones about 34 times a day. We visit Facebook on average 5 times. I think that one's really low. I think that one's like times 4. And the average person is liking and scrolling and engaging with content about 30 minutes. I think all of these are probably low, if I had to guess. And there's a researcher who has coined the term email apnea. And this is the idea or the belief that we hold our breath when we check our phones and we check our inbox. in anticipation of what's to come. Think about that. We are already anticipating that future worry of what am I going to encounter when I open the inbox. And so there's that hesitation to breathe, and you actually might hold your breath. So that's a little mindfulness moment, something you can think about and start to tune into, maybe consciously taking a deep breath as you open an app or an inbox to make sure that that's not the case. And this is not uncommon. We know as yoga teachers, I'm a yoga teacher myself, that when life gets uncomfortable, there's this tendency to hold the breath. So something simple to tune into. The wild thing about apps and technology is that these developers are getting really good at bringing us back for more. So here's the thing. The brain really likes reward and excitement and to be noticed and to belong. And so apps like games and apps like social media, they're starting to build in badges, and they're starting to build in urgency, like consume this within 24 hours or it goes away. And you say congratulations to somebody and a little emoji explodes. And, for the kids, I've noticed this with my own kids, there are badges and gaming streaks and different recognition you get when you log in every single day. And even with some of the more professional apps, there's notifications and who's looking at you and that type of thing. And so all of this is feeding the reward centers in the brain. And it feels good to be noticed and liked and acknowledged and approved. And so that keeps the brain coming back for more. Same thing happens with potato chips and ice cream and shopping and gambling and all the coping activities. It's there as an option. And as humans, we might choose to do that behavior or activity because it feels good. And it kind of lights up the brain and it perks you up a little bit. So it's difficult, I think, to have healthy boundaries with technology and social media, especially when you're always wondering, what am I missing? What am I missing out on, right? We have a term for that. And also, I wonder who looked or liked or commented, and it just keeps us coming back for more to reinforce that habit. A lot of reinforcement and reward going on. It also creates this really interesting situation where we are connected to others through technology, yet we're still disconnected, right? Like we're not physically in that person's presence. And coming off a pandemic, we all know what that can feel like. We miss that opportunity to hug someone or touch. We miss the opportunity to read the room and the energy in the room and that type of thing. So research has linked internet usage not only to addiction, but to depression, ADHD, and other mental illness. So mental illness and mental health challenges are on the rise given the current pandemic, and that's understandable. And then layer in an increase in technology consumption and entanglement, and we're also feeling potentially more anxious or triggered or overwhelmed. When I speak on sleep and healthy sleep habits, I'm always quick to remind people to be intentional and mindful and aware of what's being consumed right before bed. Not only foods and beverages, but content of the technology, content of the social media, because sometimes content in and of itself is very, very triggering, right? And so at any given time, all year long, I think there's a real opportunity to start to notice when, quote unquote, connecting with people online or over social media is beneficial and when it's not. When is it working for you and when is it working against you? So personally, I'm very interested in topics like neuroscience and human development and somatics, the mind-body connection. And I had the honor of receiving a grant that did allow me to get some additional mentorship and study the mind-body connection and specifically how movement supports cognition. So this is just an interest of mine, and I wanted to share that. So as we segue a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about the changing brain. So we know that the human brain can be plastic, which is a weird term. The word plastic means that it can change over time, and it can change for the better. It can also change for the worse. And we knew that children had especially good brain plasticity. And so this is the reason why children were always introduced to foreign language in preschool, movement, instruments, music, because their brains are like little sponges. Their cells are rapidly dividing and their development is very rapid, in the early years. And so we were trying to immerse children in all of these experiences early on because of brain plasticity. Well, what we've come to learn is that the adult brain can also adapt and grow and change for the better, but it can also atrophy. And different behaviors can support one or the other in happening. And a lot of this I learned when studying out in Seattle with an expert, Anne Green Gilbert. And again, she's an expert in movement and the brain. And we talked about how our eyes are very impactful as a way to take in information, but also a way to support the brain. And with technology, we are looking at smaller screens, smaller and smaller screens, right? It used to be, a TV, and then it's a monitor, and then it's a tablet, and then it's a cell phone. So our devices that we're engaging with keep shrinking. And when we are fully immersed in whatever the device is, it even changes our body posture and our body language, right? We become a little collapsed in our posture because we're consuming and we're nose down in the phone. But anyway, we also know that it's healthy and beneficial for the eyes to do what's called eye tracking and to cross the midline of the body. Helps to integrate the right and left side of the brain. And so our eyes generally track left to right when we read a room, when we read a book. So this eye tracking is not happening as much as the devices shrink and get smaller. So that's impacting us. It's interesting. And we also know that backlit screens are affecting sleep and circadian rhythms. Backlit screens are very stimulating. So sometimes it's disrupting sleep because the light is so stimulating, but sometimes, like I said, it's the content of what's being consumed that's kind of triggering. So the two together, and you can feel kind of ramped before you go to bed if you're, on social media. Now, this is a slightly older study by, I think, today's standards, but a 2012 Chinese study linked internet addiction to a 10 to 20% shrinkage in gray matter in the area of the brain responsible for processing speech, memory, emotion, motor control, and other sensory information. So it found that the more time spent online, the more the brain showed signs of atrophy. It's wild, Now, the good news is that studies on meditation and mindfulness have shown the opposite effect. So we have anecdotes to some of these challenges. And then a parallel study found that the brains of internet addicts contained abnormal white matter in the areas responsible for attention, control, and executive function. So we are in an era where technology is here to stay. So many things are automated. Gaming is fun. Social media is fun to a certain extent until it's not, right? But we have so many opportunities in work and leisure time to be consuming and engaging technology. And so the concern becomes when the dosage is so high, what's the price we pay? How is it impacting children? How is it impacting working adults? How is it impacting our mental health? How is it impacting those who already feel distracted and have a hard time focusing? I totally fall into that category of I'm anxious oftentimes, I'm easily distracted, and 50 notifications on my phone are just really not helping anything. And even if I have it on Do Not Disturb, your brain still wonders, what am I missing out on? And so it's something that I think with time and attention we can manage and master and overcome. But all important things I think that we think about and talk about. And this really makes a case for my industry, what I do for a living in How do we support busy working adults to have a healthier workday? How do we get people up and moving? How do we get people stepping away from technology? How do we give kids opportunities to move their bodies and get out into nature? And it's interesting because when kids misbehave at school and they receive a punishment, oftentimes they'll take away their recess. And recess is the exact thing that they need to help their bodies and their brains and to burn off steam. And, movement has so many benefits. And we're going to look at that here shortly. So we need to be really careful and make sure that we are pouring into those needs to move the body, get out into nature, and step away and be unplugged. So another thing that I am concerned about because of my work is the amount of sitting that sometimes is associated with a workday. Now, I need to be careful because not every workday is this way. Some workdays are incredibly active. They are the opposite of sitting all day. But there is a population of people who could say, yes, I am a professional sitter. I sit 8 to 9 hours a day, and I am working on this, this, and this. And so the concern becomes, what is the price we pay for sitting all day? So not only are we glued to our technology, but we're also sedentary. And that's really where workplace wellness first emerged from, is this change in the workday where we were just sitting, for these massive amounts of time. So we also have this concern of not getting enough physical activity in the day, and how is that wearing on us? So the more we engage with technology, the more we're sitting potentially. So according to anthropologists, our ancestors, more specifically male ancestors, walked between 10 and 20 kilometers per day. Women walked about half that amount. So why is that? Well, back then, men were more likely to be hunting, women were more likely to be gathering, right? So they're out and about, but in different quantities. That's nearly 12 miles per day. 12 miles per day they were walking. The current national guideline or recommendation is 10,000 steps. 10,000 steps is 5 miles a day. There are millions of people who are not getting to 10,000 steps a day, which is 5 miles, not even half of, what the ancestors were doing. So it is no wonder that we have several significant health challenges in our country. So the concern becomes that technology is here to stay. Internet and social media is here to stay. We are consuming it, not all day, every day, but a good chunk of each day, and we're moving less and less. So the question becomes, how do we support wellness and well-being better and differently? As I've shared in previous episodes, I am a huge fan of an integrative approach to healthcare and to wellness. This looks at the whole person. This looks at mind, body, spirit, environment, and technology is present in our environment, and it is then impacting mind, body, and spirit. I hope up until this point, I've made a pretty strong case for why this matters, and I just want to pause and offer up a moment for you to self-assess, right? Self-assessment is really powerful stuff. You could be hearing this and saying, that's just not me. Like, I get a ton of activity each day. My job is out and about on the go. I don't binge TV or social media. So maybe this is not a pain point for you. Maybe this is not a challenge for you. I anticipate there is a pretty good sized population of people who have to engage with technology through work and then enjoy to do so in their leisure time. So I think we have a case for figuring this out. How do we have a healthier workday, knowing that technology is inherent in it? And then what can we do to offset the technology and layer in more healthy practices to create more balance in the body and the brain? So for the rest of today's episode, I really want to talk about huge opportunities for workplaces and employers. And then these opportunities also exist for you, the individual, the employee, the busy working adult, right? So we can look at this a few different ways. And if you are a decision maker in your workplace, if you're a leader, manager, supervisor, This messaging, I think, will be really powerful to positively impact your workday and influence workplace culture. The first area of opportunity I want to offer up is to maximize movement, mindfulness, and meditation. We've spoken about these big three, the 3Ms, several times in these episodes, and I'm going to come at it from a slightly different angle today, so hopefully this helps to reinforce. And hey, experts say that we have to hear things many times before they stick and before they actually get implemented. So what we know about movement, meditation, and mindfulness is that these behaviors produce short-term, i.e. instant, and long-term skills and benefits. These are mind, body, spirit benefits. And again, I think sometimes people feel frustrated in their health, fitness, or wellness journey because it takes time to create change. Change is hard and uncomfortable. That said, when you do experience movement, mindfulness, and meditation, there is some near instant benefit. I've spoken about this a little bit before. You could go for a walk and feel better instantly. You don't have to go on 12 weeks worth of walks to feel better. There will be different changes and benefits that come after 12 weeks. But in that exact moment or experience, there will be some immediate benefit. And I think if we can stay connected that we can feel better and different now, that's motivating. I have another favorite book called Brain Rules. And Brain Rules talks about, shocker, the brain and development. And this is the source of the content I shared about our ancestors and how much they moved. There's also a Brain Rules for Baby. And so this is all about understanding the human brain and development and what we can do to support our brains. Some really magical things happen when we exercise. And again, I think people get so hung up on looking better, and I want to invite you to get hung up on feeling better. So here are some really kick-ass things that happen in the body and the brain when you exercise. And again, this is every time you exercise. We're supporting these things, not just, a year from now. So when we exercise, we have an increase in blood flow across all body tissues. Now, I'm going to go down a little rabbit hole here because there are a lot of people I meet in my line of work who have, quote unquote, bad parts, bad joints. I've got a bad knee. I've got a bad back. I've got bad ankles, whatever it is. The more we can get moving and have blood and oxygen flowing, the more we will support those tissues and joints. Because anywhere there is blood flow and anywhere the body is metabolically active, especially those soft tissues, we can create some change and we can support the health. So we're going to see an increase in blood flow across all body tissues. And with that comes better energy because guess what? Your brain needs oxygen. That's why you yawn through your mouth to get a big batch of oxygen right into your body and brain. So when we exercise, we already start to feel more energized because of blood and oxygen, two basics that we need. And it's going to be really, really good for our body being able to regenerate and help itself. There's also an increase in production of a molecule that's called nitric oxide. And this allows the body to form new blood vessels. That's pretty fascinating. The human body never ceases to amaze me, its complexity, and just how friggin' resilient it is. We tend, and I hate to be overgeneralizing all the time, but I work with a lot of people and I hear things on repeat. And so I think there is a common mindset, or let me say that, a common belief that woe is me, my body is damaged goods, and it is what it is, and it's been this way, and it's not going to be any better or different. And when somebody has pain and discomfort, it's counterintuitive to move their bodies, right? But what we know about movement is that it is a remedy and it does support the body in staying more capable. So an object in motion stays in motion. Your body is a little bit of use it or lose it. And so if you're shying away from using it, it will continue to be at a disadvantage. But if we can find a way to move safely and incrementally in a way that is pain-free and again is getting blood and oxygen flowing and is not too much too soon, the body likes increments, we can really create some powerful change in the body. The body is so resilient and cells are turning over all the time. My favorite example to give is what happens in the body when someone quits using tobacco and they quit smoking or vaping. The science is there, the before and after pictures are there, and the lungs have this amazing ability to regenerate. Not overnight, but over time and day over day. The body is doing these amazing things. Same thing with those who are recovering from cancer treatment. Cancer treatment oftentimes kills the healthy cells in the body. So the body needs some time to regenerate and to rebuild cells, but it does. What happens in the body is just absolutely fascinating. So if you have been frustrated with your body for whatever reason in the past, that doesn't have to be your experience in the future. And it all begins with that first willingness to get going. Okay, back to my list of all the beautiful things that happen in your body. So when we have more blood vessels, it allows for better distribution of all of your nutrition, better waste removal. So your body's just more optimized, right? Circulation will be better and improved. And then when we exercise, your brain also produces something called BDNF, and that stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And yeah, it's a mouthful. In my industry, we talk about this a lot because healthy aging is important to a lot of individuals, supporting cognition. Diseases that are associated with an aging brain create a lot of challenges physically. And so movement and getting your body to produce this BDNF is powerful. And neuroscientists and experts call this miracle grow for your brain. So the more you are able to produce and increase this BDNF, the more benefits you will see in cognitive ability as well. So think about all of those benefits of feeling better, moving better, being and staying more capable. We also know with physical activity, our mood improves because endorphins are flowing. We're more energized because of that increase in blood and oxygen flow. So pair that with all the amazing things that happen when you meditate. So this is just some of the amazing things that happen in the body when you practice and establish meditation in your life. This is all evidence-based. We have evidence of lower blood pressure. We have evidence of easing anxiety and depression. Healing from illness. There has been a ton of study about the mind's effect on healing and how thoughts influence our healing. Pain management. Individuals who have chronic pain, it is debilitating. I really feel for people who are managing pain. I can see how the motivation would be sucked right out of you because of discomfort and because it wears on your mind, body, and spirit. But there's also evidence that through meditation practice and through this awareness of your mind and body and learning to be a little bit more at peace and non-judgmental of the experience, there is improved pain, sensation of pain, and pain management. Boosted immunity. So the immune system is going to remain to be a hot topic, I believe, for a while, and we can support our immune system with meditation. Improved sleep. So I read a study that was roughly 2/3 of insomniacs experienced significant improvements in their ability to fall asleep and stay asleep after establishing a consistent meditation practice. I joke that America is tired. I probably told this joke on another episode. America is tired. People oftentimes are not sleeping well, not staying asleep, not getting enough volume of sleep. And I find that people don't volunteer that information. They just kind of accept it as being normal for them. So if that is you, it doesn't have to be that way. And meditation can support you in quieting your mind so that it's easier to fall asleep. We've talked about resiliency and the body's ability to bounce back and heal. But again, it helps if we are mentally and emotionally steady. That can really support resiliency. We also know that those who meditate have a physical, mental, emotional awareness, not only of themselves, but of others. So we could say that that supports emotional intelligence. Individuals who meditate eventually experience more peace and less reactivity. That one really speaks to me. So let me say it again. More peace and less reactivity. I don't know that every busy working adult has a whole lot of peace and steadiness in their day. And so meditation is a reminder that you can create moments of peace and steadiness in your day when other variables are beyond your control and influence. And then clarity on life and situations. Oftentimes, individuals will experience overwhelm or decision-making fatigue. The central nervous system has fight, flight, or freeze. And freeze is when you're sort of like deer in headlights and I don't know what to do. So having a practice like meditation, and specifically there's an exercise, contemplation, I mentioned it before, it creates space in your day for you to sit with questions that you have to see what comes up, and to get that clarity on what is the decision that I'm most at peace with and what makes sense in this moment. Really, really powerful stuff. But it's not enough to know it, right? We have to actually employ it and put it into action. So continuing down this path of solutions to offset technology in the workday, in work life, I want to offer up a reminder to intentionally connect with live, real, breathing human beings and disconnect from the devices, unplug physically the cords and things, and allow yourself to recharge. So I think there's opportunity to look at current habits and tendencies and to look where you might be able to create better or healthier boundaries around technology consumption. And in addition to that, be certain that there are moments of non-digital recovery and restoration. I think what happens is busier working adults get a little bit of a break in their day and they pick up their phone to scroll. So our recharging is with technology. Our recharging is not like a real recharge. Like when I say recharge and unplug, I mean take a nap, step outside, let the sun shine on your face. And I think it's very easy to scroll and let the scrolling be your time to decompress or unwind or whatever, but it's potentially going to have the opposite effect, right? I also notice, myself included, I am not preaching like I have got this all ironed out all the time. Myself included, I find myself in a line waiting. What happens the second we have to wait? The second we have to wait for a coffee drink to be made, the second we have to wait in any kind of line, the second you might even be at a stoplight and you're bored and you're pulling out your phone. The second we have any idle moment, we are potentially hauling those damn phones out to entertain ourselves. But the price we pay is it's not especially restorative or healing. It's just potentially more fatiguing and tiring. So huge opportunity to balance technology with real human interaction, real social connection, real eye contact. I even have to catch myself when I'm going through the drive-thru at Starbucks. Am I on my phone, talking to someone who's not there and ignoring the person who is there? Like I need to look at that barista in the eyes and be like, hi, I see you. I appreciate you. But sometimes we're trying to do so many things at once. None of the humans that we're interacting with are really getting our full attention. And so I think there's a huge opportunity there. I also wanted to point out that people recharge in very different ways. So some individuals will want to recharge in private, and so it will not look like social connection. It'll look like quiet time. I still think that quiet time for introverts can be non-digital. So the takeaway here is non-digital recovery and restoration. Now, some people like myself, extroverts, we want to hang out with people and go play. And that is how we recharge our batteries. But the real takeaway here is non-digital opportunities to engage. And I think what we've been up against the last year and a half is come to a virtual happy hour, come to a virtual class. And, it is wonderful to be able to see people and to see them and to be with them. But it's still technology and it's just a different experience. So I'm a huge fan of virtual classes. It is a primary offering within my business, but I think we still have to be mindful and cognizant and intentional that not every hour of the day is a virtual experience. I do feel strongly about that. I found a meme, and I'm sure you've seen this before, that says, what if we recharged ourselves as often as we did our phones? I mean, people have a full-on panic attack when their battery's about to die on their mobile device and they don't have a charger. I mean, people are like running through the office. What kind of phone do you have? What's your charger look like? You know? But we never, and again, that might be an overgeneralization, we oftentimes do not give ourselves that same level of priority. Like, whoa, warning, battery freakishly low, must nap. As another takeaway for today, I want to talk a little bit about monotasking and focusing on one thing at a time. If you are like myself and easily overwhelmed, easily anxious, easily thinking about 50 things at once, and sidetracked by all the notifications on the phone, I think there's a real opportunity to enjoy and embrace and seek out tasks and activities where you really are doing one thing at a time and where you really are sitting in that zone of genius. You know, things that you do really well, things that you enjoy. You know, this ties to our conversation on flow. But if you're feeling especially triggered and exhausted by technology, I would look for the non-digital opportunity, and then I would look for the opportunity to be doing one thing, not many things. I think that will really help us to reset the nervous system a little bit. I think, myself included, there's such a thing as adrenal fatigue, where you are stimulated, ramped, go, and it can really wear on your body. You know, so we've got to have some downtime to reestablish homeostasis, or what balance looks like in the body. So my challenge to you, coming off the heels of today's chat, is to look for more opportunities for movement breaks, especially if you're a professional sitter. It does not need to be a 45 to 60-minute workout to have benefit. We have a lot of limiting beliefs around exercise and the gym. And I think if we can break through some of those limitations or expectations of what a quote-unquote real workout looks like, I think it could be really transformative to people's lives. I think it could be 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 5 minutes here. If you even got on the floor for 5 minutes to stretch or do push-ups, and you did that every single day, you can't discount even 5 minutes. You know how many push-ups that would be at the end of the week if you just did 5 minutes a day? It'd be an absurd amount of push-ups. So we tend to dismiss or write off small incremental experiences, and I think there's real opportunity there. I like to say that old school is new school. I personally have 0 fitness trackers. I personally have 0 wearables. Number one, it's one more thing to charge, and I hate charging things, and they're never fully charged, and it's a pain in the ass. They're also expensive, and you have to do app updates, and you have to stay on top of that, and it's one more way you're engaging with technology. You can track metrics without a wearable or a Fitbit or a tracking device or whatever. And I don't mean to throw any one brand under the bus. Just for me and my sanity and my anxiety and my mental health, I don't need any of that. I have chosen just to only track minutes of physical activity. All I do is write 90 minutes, 40 minutes, 35 minutes, 120 minutes, you know. Old school is new school. Very, very simple, affordable, easy, low barrier practice. Midday meditation. I challenge you to figure out where in your day and where in your life you can make space for meditation. I acknowledge not everyone knows how to meditate. Oh, but wait, you're in luck. I'm recording those. Shameless plug, we are going to have some audio resources on the Wellness Collective online store, wellnesscollective.com. But hey, there is no lack of resources related to meditation in terms of apps and classes and YouTube videos. And obviously, I'm a huge fan of having a live human being when possible. So I think that's powerful to find a teacher or coach or mentor. But look for where this could be layered into your day. And, you know, consistency is always a beautiful thing, but sometimes consistency is hard in terms of it's always going to happen at 1 p.m., right? Because you can't control all moving parts of the universe. So I think having a plan and then flexibility within the plan is the best strategy. So rather than having a goal of, I'm going to meditate every day at 1 p.m., I would encourage you to set a goal of, I'm going to meditate daily and the time is flexible. That gives you more freedom to make it happen in the 24-hour day than something that's potentially too fixed. And what if this meditation happened in your workday? What if it happened at the beginning of a meeting? What if you said to everyone, we're going to start our meeting at 2:05 so that everybody can have a minute to breathe and not be running from thing to thing? That might be the most winning idea yet. We do not have enough transition time in our day. And so I think as a leader, manager, supervisor, et cetera, saying to people like, hey, I want you to take the first 5 minutes of the meeting to take care of yourself. Go to the bathroom, stretch, get a glass of water, get a cup of coffee, connect with somebody, look them in the eye, or hey, close your eyes and breathe. 5 minutes gifted back to somebody could be pretty transformational. And if you are gathering live and in person in a workplace, you could create a respite room or a physical space where people could land to recharge their batteries this way. Last but not least, I want to kind of continue on that idea of what I call mindful meetings. I think there's an opportunity to model mindfulness and awareness of self and others when we meet. And this can be a virtual meeting or a live meeting. I think there's power in beginning and ending on time. I think it sends a message that you respect yourself and others and you want them to have that transition time. Especially in this virtual world, people are running from thing to thing to thing with just no transition time for self-care. You could choose to begin every meeting with a couple of deep breaths. It sounds cheesy, but it's not. It doesn't have to be. It's all in, I think, execution. And you might not feel totally comfortable at first, but you don't have to lead it per se. Just remind people like, hey, take a couple deep breaths, get comfortable, get what you need. This is the intention of the meeting. I think it's powerful to respect boundaries of others, when calling and scheduling. I think there's a huge opportunity to not book meetings over lunch. Let people have their lunch hour to practice self-care. And I think there's a real opportunity to use technology only as needed and to prioritize face time and make an intentional effort to have some face time or like, hey, let's go have a walking touch base once a week. Let's go outside and get fresh air and sunlight. Let's make sure we do that at least one meeting a week. Again, small, digestible bites that I think really, really add up. So as we wrap up today, I just want to recap what I think some of the biggest opportunities are for, again, establishing this healthy relationship between you, your workplace, your colleagues, and technology. I think there's opportunity to create self-care as the norm and to talk about it and to model it right within the workday. That will inspire others to do the same. I think there's opportunity to move toward mindfulness, being more aware of yourself and others, being really tuned in or dialed in to how technology is impacting your mental, emotional health, how it's impacting your mood, how it's impacting your self-talk or judgment of yourself and others, how it's impacting your energy and your sleep. I think there's opportunities to create healthy boundaries with technology. Again, there's this idea of entanglement where it's like it's almost a part of you. So creating space for the phone to be in a completely separate room. And again, if you're an employer, creating supportive programming and encouraging people to take care of themselves, have that transition time, inviting them to learn more about movement, mindfulness, and meditation. Again, to offset all of this technology. So with that, we are complete. That is a wrap of episode 7. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about the brain, a little bit about what's possible, and I'll see you next time.